Hi everyone, my name is Michelle, and for the last 4 years, practically 4 years, I have been building this cabin behind me. While I am not done, I feel that I am closing in on things now, and the major things are done, at least in my mind, enough to the point that I feel like I can speak to this video now. This is something I've wanted to do for a long time. And that's to just kind of go over the things that I would do differently, like the big things that I think I made a mistake on, things I would do differently, and probably a few of the things that I'm really glad that I stuck to doing. Some of you that are watching have been watching for the last 4 years. Some of you are going to be new. I still think it's worthwhile to go and give just a bit of a backstory to help fill in the gaps for people. And to be honest, it's my own life and it confuses me sometimes. So where I am at now is our off-grid property. So my husband, Steve, and I own two properties. We own two properties. This is the off-grid one. Going back to the home property, this is what confuses people a lot, is what's where. So home property is 10 acres. It's on the grid. It's where we have the big kind of timber frame home. Steve built that when he bought the land in the early 2000s. It has the creek, it has the little shed that I built down by the creek, it has the fort by the creek, it's where my sawmill is, it is where we have the ski trail in the winter time. That is where we live. Where I'm at now is the off-grid property. This is on the lake, it is 20 acres, it is remote BC, it is wild and gnarly and beautiful. Wild, gnarly, rugged, and beautiful. We purchased the land bare in 2013, built a dovetail log cabin down by the water in 2014, and since then have just been building up the land. Now, the property is deemed on its title, like on the paperwork, it's deemed as treacherous. Basically, the whole piece of land is called treacherous. Even where we built our cabin was not recommended due to treacherous rockfall potential. So it's rugged and it's very steep. Steve had wanted to figure out a way to access the property and to look around. So he found a way up, and over the years we actually have established a trail with sections of stairs that get us all the way up here. We discovered in exploring the land and building the trail that there were two very beautiful viewpoints of the lake. Where we are at here is one of them, and we call this the cliff because it is basically a big chunk of bedrock that's a cliff. And it's a drop off right there. And the first time that I came up here, I thought, wow, this would be such a cool place for a cabin. Once I had that in my head and visualized a cabin being here, I sort of couldn't not make it happen. Of the two viewpoints, this being the cliff, I thought that this would be the easier of the two places to build something first, because the road above is closer than the other location. And I thought I could drive materials in and bring them down a lot easier to here than to the other spot. This property, this 20 acres, spans 1,800 vertical feet. Here we are at about, I think it's around 1,300 feet, and the top of the property is the 1,800 feet. So from here to the road, which is just basically like a trail, it's an old rail grade, it is a multi-purpose trail. So from here to there is about 500 vertical feet. And the problem from the very beginning in building this place was just the location. Yeah, there's not even a lick of a flat spot here. I think the one flat spot that exists is where the burning barrel is, and everything else is a significant slope. So I knew it would be hard, but I just didn't think it would be hard enough for it to make me still be here 4 years later. Here we are on one of the sides that I still have to put siding on. Anyway, I think the first thing to say in general is that I'm speaking about the things that are really applicable to me in my scenario. I still feel like the stuff I'm going to say has relatability somehow to anyone building something. So just keep that in mind. But the first thing I would have to say is the transport of materials down here. I should have sorted that out earlier on. Like that should have been the first thing I kind of made better. For the first year and a half or 2 years, I carried everything down that steep mountain, 500 vertical feet, on a goat trail. It's basically a goat trail. I should have fixed the trail up from the beginning doing that, but what I really should have done was either built a chute, like some sort of slide, or learned about the Sky Mule earlier. It was my uncle that mentioned to me that there was such a thing as a Sky Mule. It's a zipline type thing made in Switzerland, which we looked into about 1.5 to 2 years after, and then bought it and installed it. And that really was a game changer because it was wearing me out carrying everything down. I was carrying, I was rolling, I was throwing, I was sliding, I was dragging everything to get here. And I just didn't think that it would be as much materials as it ended up being. And so, yeah, doing that earlier on would have been easier. But again, I was so sort of stubborn and narrow-minded that I didn't want to stop to do that first because I just wanted to start building the cabin. But hindsight, I think that would have made a lot more sense. So if you have a difficult location, you really want to try to make it as easy as possible and have as much help getting the materials down as possible. And even the thing about the stairs off the rock wall, so many people had mentioned, and I thought about it so many times, to have some way, some hoist, so even from the back of your truck, to get it down the rock wall, because I still had to unload things out of my truck, carry them down the stairs, which was a lot. Those stairs are really steep, and then carry it to the zip line and then down. And then I still have to carry things from the zip line to here a ways. But anyway, that would be the first thing. The second thing that I really wish that I did differently and would do differently is do more tree felling. At the time, I don't even think I had cut a tree down before, maybe one. So Steve cut the trees down, and we basically just cut the trees down in the area where the cabin was going, and that was it. I know so much more now about this type of stuff that I really wish I would have looked up and looked around, because there were a lot of dead standing trees that should come down and need to come down. They're still dead standing, and there were a lot of trees that were on their way to being dead. Those things are now things I have to deal with now. So I have to cut them down now with the cabin here, which some of them are really close to the cabin. And there's one tree, it's a pine tree, and it's really close to the cabin, and I have to cut it down. It's dead. So that would have not only been a safety thing that I should have done for the cabin, but also for the sun exposure. I am in a very dark spot. This is north facing, and that's probably one of the another big downside to this part of the property is it's very, very, very dark. You go around the corner a little bit and you get sun, but where I'm at specifically, it's rather dark. So that would have also opened up the sun to come in a lot more. And then I would have been left with a lot of trees, a lot of lumber, given the fact that if they fell down the mountain, then I couldn't use them. But if I'd have cut these trees down, stacked them all up, I might have thought to myself, I wonder if I should use a lot more of these materials to build the cabin than bringing so much stuff in. Maybe, maybe not. But landscaping would have been the second thing I should have paid a lot more attention to. I don't know if this exactly fits into number 3 or the next thing, but we'll talk about the shed now. And the shed is something that I started to build about a year in or something. Anyway, for the first while, I had everything just stashed, my tools and supplies stashed in blue totes, and that got old quickly. I had a bear chew one of the bins, and it was just not ideal at all. And if you're gonna be building a cabin, you need a place to store your tools, because we don't live here, and because this is a remote property, I didn't get out here that often, so I'm often storing stuff for a long period of time. That would have been something that I think I would have done much sooner, is some sort of small shed. Now I built this and it's all this stuff is in videos, by the way, but I built this partway through because I realized the blue bins were not a productive way to store my stuff. I ended up realizing that the platform that I started out with, that I could lay in it, I could fit in it. And I thought, oh, I wonder if I should change this, and rather than just make it sort of a wood shed and a storage shed, I was gonna split it. I wonder if I should make it one big shed, and then I can make it so that I can sleep in it. And then I can maximize on my time out here, stay the night, and work the next day, because it is a minimum 1.5 hour drive in the summertime, and it's a 2-hour drive in the winter one way. So in the winter, I'm looking at 4 hours of my day is just driving, plus the walking up and down the mountain to, and in the winter, it's like 15, 20, 30 minutes sometimes to get back up. Doing this was so good, and I have that thing stuffed full. Eventually I can weed it out a little bit, but I think I should have built a little shed from the get-go. That would have been helpful. And I was actually I did use a lot of the round logs were some of the stuff that were dead standing around here. I built that door, and I definitely made this shed a lot more posh than it ever needed to be. It's hard to see it now because there's so much stuff in here. But yeah, I made it like a little living space. Barn board wall. There's all my wood stacked for the siding and whatnot. I added the porch on afterwards. But super beneficial to have a shed. So whether this next one comes in before the shed or perhaps really at the same time as the shed, but anyway, they all have to go in some slot. But next would be power. And for the first 2 years, I had no power here. I used primarily battery tools to build this, with the occasional corded tool. And for the first 2 years, I would pack my batteries back out of here, take them home, charge them at home, and bring them back if I remembered. There was a few times I forgot. And that at first doesn't seem like that big of a deal, but year after year, it is a big deal. There were actually even days that I ran out of battery juice out of all of my batteries, and I had to either think of something else to do or just go home. So not having power for the first 2 years was a disadvantage, and I would definitely do that different next time. EcoFlow is the sponsor of this video, and I have had their Delta 3 Plus since last summer. And this is like your all-around great guy, your all-around middle-of-the-road power station. And what I mean by that is that it's not too big and it's not too small. It is actually incredibly lightweight and portable, and the fact that I carried this down here in one hand with something else in my other hand and a backpack on with snowy, icy terrain under my feet speaks volumes to that. But we wanted to have some juice, and it does. Here are the specs. So it is definitely capable of powering corded power tools, charging your batteries multiple times, headlight charging, phone charging, small appliances. What I also love about this power station, the Delta 3 Plus, is that it is fast charging and that it is fast solar charging. Because I don't have very much sun here, I can easily carry it to a location where there is sun, which is just up over there. And in 30 minutes, I can get the bulk of the charging done. And then with full sun exposure, I can get it fully charged in 70 minutes. So as your all-around great guy, this power station can be your everything for you, from your building your cabin, using it in your cabin for your power source, taking camping, using as your home battery backup system in the event of a power outage. But one thing I haven't ever really spoken to before is disaster preparedness. like a disaster preparedness kit. Winter storms, summer wildfires, and subsequent power outages are just a fact of life here in North America. And having a disaster preparedness kit at the ready and including a power station in that is something that I really think we all should be considering, because if we have to leave our house, for example, we're all going to have to cook, we're all going to have to have heat, we're all going to have to charge our devices to communicate. Some of us are going to have medications that need to be refrigerated, and some of us are going to have medical devices that need to have continuous power. So if you would like to have the Delta 3 Plus as your all-around great guy power station, as usual, all links and discount codes are in the description box below. Thanks, EcoFlow. The next thing would be the foundation. So Steve actually helped me with the foundation stuff, because on the list of the things that I wanted for this structure as well was to primarily build it by myself. But Steve wanted to help me with the foundation and getting the posts in. This is all bedrock. So we anchor bolted 2 anchor bolts into bedrock, these big pressure treated 6x6 posts. They were 8 feet long, I think. And that dictated how much height off the back we would have, if that makes sense. One of the posts, I think, sat an inch higher in the front. So there wasn't a lot of room to work with in the back. The front here has all been great. All of this anchoring has done really well. We have zero concerns about any of that. But the back is a different story. So here is the back. We just kind of dug out, I just kind of took a shovel and dug out the dirt a little bit and put some stones there and put the rim joists on the stones. And I really regret that. I really wish that I spent a lot more time digging out, potentially getting all the way down to the bedrock at the back, because then what I could have done was taken little bits of pressure treated 6x6 and anchor bolted into those, knowing that they're not going to settle anymore. And that would have actually made the structure, the whole foundation, a lot more structural too. I have had to come back and fiddle fart around with this back end so many times, and it's kind of still a problem. My floor still isn't level, which who cares exactly about that, but it's more the moisture issue of this big slope and all of the dirt wanting to fall in this back end constantly that has always bothered me. Although I did coat all of the rim joist boards and the deck stuff in the green copper wood preservative, I still really wish, and this year I'm gonna have to dig that out a little bit more. This is kind of fun. I never do this type of video. I actually don't like them. I don't like this talking kind of thing, but all right. The next thing that I would speak to is the footprint. So like I said, the original plan in our head, in my head, was the cabin was going to be 10 feet by 10 feet. And we thought, because I can mill 16 feet of lumber on my sawmill, why don't we make the footprint go out 16 feet? So we'll have a 10-foot cabin, 10 foot by 10 foot. The deck will come out the front and it will be 6 feet. We'll make it come out 14 feet, like an extra 4 feet off the side of the cabin. And then we'll put stairs up alongside the cabin, getting up to the deck and then going around. And that seems logical. As I was getting into the build more and more, and I got the post and beam up, and then I was putting the roof on, and that's the way that I did that. I built the timber frame, and then I wanted to do the roof next so that I had a covered area out here. And I say that if anyone ever can, that's the way you should do it if your walls can support it. Timber frame and post and beams, you can do that. So I knew that was something I really wanted to do, and I'm glad. But I quickly kind of realized that, I mean, early on, building here was just atrocious. It was just awful. Like, you're just constantly on unflat surface. So as I was trying to build higher and higher, I was having to set the ladder on uneven ground, which was time consuming, dangerous. I ran out of ladder length. You know, it just was unreasonable, basically. And I had friends offer me scaffolding, but you have to realize that everything that comes down here, if it's too heavy to get back out, lives here forever. And so I did not want to have to carry scaffolding down here and then carry it all back up. So I ended up building scaffolding, which was a little bit precarious and looked unsafe to a lot of people, but it worked. But in that time, I really realized, man, I should have side decks. That would have just made everything so much easier. So I started with building this one where the 4-foot extension came out. I built that one first, and then I built the one on the other side. But to look back at that, I should have, and I would in the future, if I'm going to build something on a ground like this, like where you're high up off and you're uneven surrounding the area, in the surrounding area, it's better to just build the little side decks from the beginning. So that is definitely something I would do differently moving forward on the next build. Okay, next I think would be the stove. Not the stove itself. I do actually think after using this now, having it all in, I do think this is totally an appropriate size stove for this space. It's a little bit small. Like if you're going to be living out somewhere full time, you maybe not want to have something this small. But for my purposes, coming out here every so often, it is actually okay. I didn't want this big, massive stove taking up like a whole corner of my space. That was something I knew for sure I didn't want. What I mean though, is I wish that I had the stove picked out for sure. I wish I had it delivered, and I wish I would have had it planned out where I was gonna cut the hole in the roof before I put the tin on. Having to do it after was a lot harder, especially if you're doing it for the first time. Like I had never installed a wood stove before. I had help. My friend Bruce helped me install the stove. So I don't think I could have done it without him probably. I mean, I could have, but honestly, it took us 4 hours to do. So having the help was really nice, but I really just wish that I had it planned, knew where the hole was going to be cut and the shape of the hole, because of course, because of the pitch change, you're not dealing with a circle, you're dealing with an oval. I had tried to avoid the ribs on the paneling of the roof, and it actually didn't even work out in the end. Anyway, we have the rubber boot on a rib, and those ribs are really high. So I tried to avoid that. It never worked out that way anyway, but that would just be another thing that I would do differently, is know my stove, know where it's gonna go exactly, have the hole cut out before I put the tin on, and then once I go to put the tin on, I can cut the tin around where my hole already is. And I did do that in my fort at home. I still didn't do the best job, but I think experience is a thing too. Like I didn't have any experience. I know now a little bit more about installing a stove. So I think that's just why I could say it. If I was gonna do it again, I would do it that way. The other option would be to go through the wall. A lot of people were saying, why don't you go through the wall? But for small stoves like this, both stove companies say that you should not do a wall exit with a small stove and the smaller diameter pipe. So unless you maybe find a way to make this attached to bigger pipe, I'm not sure. If I was gonna do a wall exit, I'd have to probably get a bigger stove or bigger stove pipe, and then figure out a way, if I was gonna use a tiny stove, how to fit those together. But that is just something to think about too. Have it ready before, because cutting the tin after was a pain. On the topic of the roof, so this was like salvaged tin from our house. We had our roof done on our house. Part of it had to get redone. So the old tin had to be taken off because a lot of it got damaged, and then new stuff put on. So I salvaged what had to be taken off and used it on this cabin. I used it on the shed too. And I still think regardless, I would have gone with metal roofing. It's just feels easier to put on. I just like the look of it, I guess. But one thing, as you can see, I'm running into that I'm not loving is the amount of water that comes down and then splashes against the siding. And then the snow, when it comes off, goes down there and it piles up along the siding. When it came to siding the cabin and planning out the siding, one of the things I had thought about doing was taking, say, one of the panels of tin and running it along the bottom. They're 12 inches. And that's kind of would give me actually a decent coverage there that is kind of a nice look aesthetically, and it would also protect things a lot better. But I didn't have any more siding. I had run out. I had used all of it. I used it on my little woodshed too at the house. So I just didn't have any more lengths, 10 foot, to do that. So I just thought, you know what, I'm going to run the siding all the way down. If worse comes to worse, one day if it starts to rot, I could cut it out and then I could put tin down below there. But what I think I should probably just do in the meantime is I might actually put snow guards up. I might put one row of snow guards, and then if I do a snow guard, a row of snow guards, I would put it above the stove pipe, the boot. That will protect the boot. And then I will put gutters to catch the drippage and the rainwater. So that would solve that problem, I think, a lot. And then it would also tie into the water issue. I don't have water here. I have to carry my water in. So rainwater catchment would be a really good and logical thing to do, except for the fact that most of the time that I plan on coming out here is going to be in the months when it's freezing. And I can't utilize the rainwater then anyway. It'd be kind of nice to have the rainwater for times when we come up here hiking up in the summertime and the dogs need water and they need a drink. You know, there definitely will be uses for it. But primarily, I plan on coming out to this cabin during the freezing months. I do have a plan for a water system type thing. I don't need to talk about that now because I don't quite have it fully figured out, but I think I have a bit of a plan. But rainwater catchment is always a good idea no matter what, for protection of the building and then for the obvious of the need of water. I do not have a water source here, which is a bummer. This property would go from amazing to amazing times 100 if there was a creek running through it. And maybe last but not least, probably the most common comment, for sure, the most common comment I get is about no railing. Some people are really angry. Some people are like, I'm unsubscribing because you don't care about your safety. So yes, I still do not have a railing. And look at that view. Just look at that view because I don't have a railing. I realize that to a lot of people, it looks scary. And it is. Like when Steve came here, because Steve doesn't come here very often. When he came, he was like, oh geez, if you fall off that, you'll die. And I already know that. I think I'm just used to it. It doesn't scare me. And it's not that I'm not being cautious. I think it's that I am cautious. I know my limits. I'm not out here like drinking beer while I'm working. So I'm focused for the most part when I'm out here. I'm not reckless. I'm not careless. I have dropped a tool or two, chainsaw and a saw, circular saw, that have flown off the cliff. But literally you drop anything. If you drop anything, it will just go down. So one thing I think maybe I should have done was maybe a bit of a net or just a series of boards. I kind of did that partway through to catch some things that were falling, or tethered tools to me, but that's almost a tripping hazard in and of itself. But the whole thing with the railing hasn't been an issue for me, and I feel like as long as I am comfortable, that's the most important thing. And I am comfortable working out here, doing what I'm doing, and I know that I just am comfortable with it. And knowing your own limits and playing and working within what you are comfortable doing is the most important thing. There are lots of things in the world and in life that I'm not comfortable doing, and I know that, and I won't do them, or I'm really cautious. So I have no regrets about no railing at this point. As a bonus, it has given you guys an unobstructed view of this. And that's just something that not everyone gets to see all the time. So that's been a bonus. I still don't have it quite sorted out. I was back and forth on a few different ideas for a while. And last year when we had to rebuild our deck, I thought about taking all of the old glass and stanchions and putting them out here. But to be honest, I almost don't think I have it in me to do that now, to bring like more glass down, like big, heavy, breakable things. I'm kind of over that. And the other part to that is that I do like to be able to shovel snow off, and I do like to be able to sweep the deck. And if you have glass, it's not as easy to do that. So I think I'm leaning towards either just rope or the wire cable type system railing. But like I said, it's just not really that much of a priority to me. For the dog's safety, sure, but the dogs aren't here very often. Look at that view, hey? Perhaps one more thing that might come up in the comments that is logical is an outhouse. I don't have an outhouse. Most people would probably think to build an outhouse a lot sooner than me, which I haven't built one yet. To be honest, I mostly just pee out here. I think I've only had to poop twice, and I just go off way into the bush and do it in the bush. But I had thought I was gonna build this elaborate outhouse, but I think I've really just exhausted myself from building here. I think I'd like to just break free from here for a little while. And then just the reality is like, I don't go to the bathroom out here that often. I pee, and you don't really want to pee in an outhouse toilet anyway. So I might just do a simple composting bucket, kind of enclose a bucket and have a lid on it, and just do that, like a 5-gallon pail bucket with the sawdust type and ashes type thing. So more than likely that's what I will just end up doing, and I probably will put it where the woods is all stacked beside the shed. That makes sense to have it there. And I might actually, while I'm there, put another sort of a dedicated wood storage shed. A few of the things that I would say that I do not regret and that I'm just really happy in the end. I really feel like this cabin has exceeded my expectations. I'm really proud of myself for sticking out and toughing out all of the details that I wanted to achieve when I could have easily backed out. For example, the lockers. Like, did I need to haul these 200-pound lockers down this mountain by myself? No, I didn't. But I wanted the damn lockers in here because I had the vision of them being there, and I just wanted them there. The other things, like, a lot of the material for the loft and whatnot was stuff I salvaged. I brought a lot of salvaged stuff up from the bottom of the property, from the shore. I rummaged through garbage piles. All of the hardwood flooring or the fur flooring came from a dumpster pile. I'm just really happy that I did a lot of the details that I did do, and it's getting so close to completion, and I'm just really so happy with how it's all turned out. That I know it's taken so long, but it's been worth it. And all of this stuff that I've learned, all of the little details, the big things, the small things, all of that are going to contribute to how I go about building the next thing. This is the other amazing viewpoint on this property, and this is actually the first one that we discovered. We first saw a mountain goat on here from the road. We were walking one time and we saw this big white thing. We thought it was an albino bear, but it turned out it was a mountain goat. And we thought, oh man, we should go up and see where that goat was hanging out. And that's very early on when we bought the land. And that's kind of what prompted us. That's how we kind of found this spot. This is kind of what we call the meadow. And it's because the land kind of goes like this. It comes up, it's really steep. Then it kind of flattens out like where we're at here. It actually goes down and then straight back up. So there's kind of this more habitable spot here where there's like flat areas, there's a ton more sun exposure. Like this place actually gets a ton of sun exposure. which is really nice. Even in the winter, it does. The disadvantages are that it is literally in the middle of the mountain. So there is definitely no way to bring materials in from up top. If anything, I would bring them in from down below, like walk up, hike up. We built a whole bunch of stairs to get to this point in the land, and I would probably carry the materials up when needed. So this, you guys, is where I want to build the next thing. And if I were to have built here 4 years ago, I would have choppered in all the materials. But I'm glad that I've waited. I don't want to chopper in materials because it's like life. Like, I don't know. It's not always about the end result. Like, because I mean, in life, the end result is death. It's about the journey. I thought, how am I going to get my materials to build something here? And it really just kind of came to me. I am going to build some type of structure here with the materials that are around me. I am going to try to use whatever trees are already down and fallen. There are so many trees down on this land. Like, this property is bright red on the forest fire map. A lot of them I think are too far gone, but some of them have sections that are okay. And I think that's just going to be the fun of it, is that the materials that are going to be available to me are going to dictate what I build, the style, the size, and all of that. It's obviously going to be some type of primarily a log structure. Yeah, I'm just really excited because it's going to be a really unique build. It's going to be a lot more bushcrafty. I might be using moss as a chinking, you know? I'm just really excited about this one. And I don't anticipate starting like right now. I think this is going to be a late spring, summer, fall thing. Primarily this year is going to be about starting to acquire materials, and I'm going to start to just haul them in and stack them and see what I've got that's usable. And then I would build a shed first, a small shed to store some things in while I'm here to store water, because I, again, don't have water here, so I'd have to bring my water in. Obviously, I need to finish the cliff cabin. I think that's all I need to say. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.